Next up, we have Representative Frazier's bill, House File 2742. I will move to lay over House File 2742. And Chair Frazier, welcome back to the committee. There are no amendments filed on your bill, so when you're ready, please tell us about it.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members, House File 2742 is rooted in something we don't see often enough in this space, real consensus around a real problem. This bill was developed by the Minnesota Justice Research Center in collaboration with the Center of the American Experiment. When those two organizations come together, it tells you this effort is about outcomes, not ideology. And the problem is clear. Across Minnesota, clearance rates for violent crime are too low. In 2024, only 47% of violent crimes were solved. For aggravated assault, the category that includes non-fatal shootings, the statewide clearance rate is just 56%. And in Minneapolis, only 23% of non-fatal shootings were solved. That means the majority of these serious crimes are going unsolved, leaving victims without justice, communities without answers, and perpetrators free to reoffend. But we also know what works. Solving crimes is one of the most effective ways to prevent future violence. Research shows that smart investments in investigations can deliver a double dividend, reducing both crime and incarceration. And we've seen it in practice. In Denver, clearance rates for gun assaults jumped from 39 to 65% in just 7 months after creating a dedicated unit. In St. Paul, prioritizing non-fatal shootings raised clearance rates from 37% to 71% in a single year. House File 2742 builds on that success. It creates a grant program through the Department of Public Safety to support dedicated teams of police, prosecutors, and crime analysts working together from the moment a shooting is reported. That coordination helps secure scenes, preserve evidence, and increase the likelihood of solving cases. The bill targets resources where they're needed most, requires collaboration across agencies, and builds in accountability so we can measure results. Members, this is also about equity. When crimes go unsolved, it disproportionately impacts communities of color in low-income neighborhoods, regardless of the jurisdiction. Improving clearance rates is not just smart public safety, it's a matter of fairness. And there is clear alignment here. The Senate companion includes a $3.5 million appropriation, reflecting bipartisan recognition that this is a smart investment. At a time when public safety debates can divide us, this bill brings us together around a simple idea. Safer communities start with solving crimes. I respectfully ask for everyone's support of this bill. I believe we do have a couple of testifiers.
All right, yeah, thank you. We have County Attorney John Choi and then Chief Deputy Sheriff Dave Meadle-Salem. If you both want to come forward, and then Chief Henry is here as well on deck, so if all three of you want to come forward, that's great. And County Attorney Choi, you're on the list first, so please introduce yourself for the record and begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is John Choi, and I serve as the Ramsey County Attorney. And first of all, I want to thank Representative Cedric Frazier for bringing forward this bill and his remarks, because I think he's so spot on. And also I want to thank this legislature, especially the members here that were here in 2023. If you might recall, this legislature, Governor Walz made a massive investment in public safety, $300 million that was spread out across the state, and the county got, our share was about $6-point-some million. The city got their share was about $13-point-some million. And the story that we're going to tell with Chief Henry and Sheriff Fletcher and David Meadle-Salem here is that in Ramsey County, St. Paul, we're all pulling in the same direction. And that allocation brought us together, and it allowed us to focus our resources on this issue about solving non-fatal shootings. Across this country, by the way, the solve rate is very low. And Representative Frazier talked about that. And I think one of the most important things, and studies will tell you, that the most important thing that we can do for deterrence is actually solving crimes, catching suspects. That is one of the most critical things that we need to be thinking about, and looking at clearance rates across the board. And certainly in the area of violent crime, that is really, really critical. And so on the non-fatal shooting clearance rate, we all came together and we came up with a strategic way to allocate those dollars. So in the county, some of that money went to the suburban cities for overtime, also for training as well, and then we use the money for something that's novel across the country. We're trying to do a victim witness services fund, and then this bill actually allows for that to happen. And so we have helped 18 families, and we're going to evaluate whether or not this theory of change is that if we can just meet the basic safety needs of those who are maybe a part of retaliatory violence, whether or not that could actually make a difference in their participation in the investigation and prosecution. Because oftentimes what happens with these non-fatal shootings is that the victim doesn't participate. And it's because of retaliatory violence, fear for safety. And so our hope is that this bill will pass, more of these resources will be available for the entire state. And the University of Pennsylvania is also evaluating this work, but oftentimes the Sheriff's Office and the St. Paul Police Department get asked to speak around the country about the great work that's been happening. So I just wanted to be here to give my enthusiastic support for this bill, and many thanks to the partners that are here in coming together and pulling in the same direction. And when we do that, we can actually accomplish a lot for public safety. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Please introduce yourself
Thank you.
and begin your
David Methuselam, Chief Deputy to the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office. Chair, committee members, thank you for having us here today. I just want to say John Choi is a little modest. There's County Attorney Choi. He's the one that was really put together this collaboration, and he and his prosecutors have been the glue in this effort. But this concept has worked very well, worked far better than I think we would have thought. And really the proof could be found in the numbers. From 2024 to 2025, we saw a significant reduction in homicides in Ramsey County of about 36%. So this concept works, and we're really in the early phases of it. So I think this is going to continue to expand and become more successful as we go, as long as we have the proper funding and resources in place. So really, in summary, to not take too much of your time, this really is about saving lives. It's about, getting justice for victims, and it's about increasing public safety in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself, Chief, and begin.
Thank you for having me, Chair and members. My name is Axel Henry. I'm the Chief of Police for the City of St. Paul. I just want to plug in just some real numbers into some of these things. Everyone has already spoken so well, and thank you so much for bringing this forward. Just to put this in context, in 2022, the City of St. Paul had 193 people that were shot with non-fatal gunfire. Those are not accidental shootings. Those are not suicide attempts. Those are people that were targeted to be shot and or killed. And that number has dropped to last year, 62% down to 73 people. So put that in context. That's 120 individuals in our city that were not struck by gunfire in comparison. That's 120 never happens. In St. Paul, we really pride ourselves on the gold medals that we're striving for are the prevention medals. The never happens. The silvers are intervention. How do we take something at a lower level and prevent it becoming a big thing? And then the bronze is that enforcement. We get a lot of enforcement done, and it does have a lot of results, but it is changing the way that we are operating here in St. Paul. It is one of the non-fatal shootings, is one of the top levers to drop our homicide rate. The county, you heard the numbers the county's experienced. St. Paul, we dropped our homicide rate last year by 50%, 5-0. Our clearance rate for those homicides, national average is at 51%. It has peaked at times in this country nationally at 62%. Our homicide clearance rate last year was 100%. We are driving these numbers down. We can only do it with your help, support, and resources. Every law enforcement agency in the state right now is suffering with a lack of people, so we have to hire some of that stuff back with resources, and that's money. And we can fix these problems. We can drive down these numbers. We can make them better. Our shots fired calls in St. Paul are down by 55%. And by the way, those clearance numbers, 71% of our non-fatal shootings, which is higher than Denver's, who inspired us. There are still 7 cases left in that stack that we're investigating. I would expect that number to be at 80% for 2025 at the end of this year, because those cases don't go away at the end of the year. We don't leave them back in the year that they happened. It works. The resources, if you give them to us, it works. And again, we are having a whole bunch of never, ever happens, which is the real gold medal for us. I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your testimony as well. And I just want to say the numbers speak for themselves. They're really important. And the number of lives that are saved as a result of, and injuries prevented as a result of this work is important. You know, the last bill we talked about, for every dollar spent, how many dollars are saved downstream? And it's unfortunate that when we do our fiscal notes, we don't take that into consideration, because I could imagine that this program as well, for every dollar spent for your clearance rates, you're saving a lot of money downstream. I don't know if there are any studies on that. I don't know if they're looking into that. Chair Frazier?
Thank you. Madam Chair, I haven't seen any studies to that effect, but what I can say, these numbers are lives
Yeah.
that are being saved. And I think that above anything, I want to focus on that.
Right. Great. All right, member discussion. Representative Whitty.
Thank you, Chair Mueller. Thank you, Representative Frazier, for bringing this bill and highlighting the program. Thank you to law enforcement. We're listening to our law enforcement partners, and you're working together and are able to obviously solve these crimes, have great numbers. Chief Axel, my question to you would be, obviously, there is the enforcement part, there's the prevention part, but how much is this success tied to your county attorney willingness to hold the criminals accountable?
Chief.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the question. It's all interlinked. That I think County Attorney Choi said it perfectly when he said we're all pulling the rope in the same direction. In fact, he came to our department to ask us to join on to this at the same time that we were looking at this implementation. And literally the conversation we had was, our timing couldn't be better. We have to work in concert with one another. That happens here in Ramsey County. And as we all know, the folks that are committing crimes, especially crimes of violence, are nomadic. They don't care about what the border is. They don't care if we're going to other cities. And so it's really important that at the county level and even at the state level, we work very, very well together. And that happens here in St. Paul. And we're trying to be a model for that around the state and around the country for that matter.
Representative Whitty.
Yeah, thank you, Chief and County Attorney, for showing us that model that can be very successful. So impressive numbers. Thank you.
Representative Hollins.
Thank you, Chair Moeller. Thank you, Representative Frazier, for bringing this forward. Less of a question and more of just a statement of pride. I think Chief Henry took my words away, because I always like to brag about how good St. Paul does in closing our homicide cases. We are record-setting, very impressive, and I think that's really, seeing how everybody works together between, the sheriff and the police department and the county attorneys it's very important to getting the job done. And I just want to say, go St. Paul. We're better than everybody, so thank you.
Representative Steer. We're not going to do this for every county and city, just so everybody knows.
I was going to piggyback
right.
off of that and say St. Paul PD is awesome, yes. My question is, 2.8, 2.9, it's with high rates of unsolved non-fatal shootings and inadequate staffing to investigate these crimes, would St. Paul qualify for this funding?
Representative Frazier.
I think as their numbers go down, they may not. But, I think we can talk about that. I don't want to punish people because they're doing really well.
Representative Steer.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, what agency are we targeting with this? I mean, is there multiple across the metro area? I know there's probably none of us in greater Minnesota would qualify for this funding. Is it just one particular department that we're trying to focus on, or is there multiple?
Representative Frazier.
I'm looking at anywhere that we have percentage-wise, high numbers of cases not being cleared, that would be this focus that I would have for this legislation. So even if you don't have, say if it's a smaller county, smaller number of individuals, you look at violent crimes, non-fatal shootings, if you have a proportion-wise, a high percentage, I would say we'd be focusing on that to help them get those clearance rates up.
Anything else? Okay. Co-Chair Novotny.
Thank you. Following up on what Representative Steer was saying, and I'm probably going to be looking at the representative from OJP, if she would like to step up, but I'll ask the question as she's walking up. Maybe you have the answers from the panel, Representative Frazier. So how much of this money has been, distributed? And Representative Steer kind of touched on it, but I mean, how many departments receive this money, and how much are these average grants going for?
Who wants to take that?
Well, sorry, could you repeat the question, Chair Novotny? Sorry.
How many and how much?
No, it's not. Chair Novotny, this program does not exist yet. This would be a new program. What has been used in the past, as County Attorney Choi spoke to and the law enforcement officials spoke to, was the resources that we gave from the public safety grants public safety aid that we passed in 2023.
Okay, so out of that money, how much money was given to this specific program, and is there any tracking of the results?
Yeah.
And I-
County
Go ahead.
Attorney Choi, would you want to?
Go ahead, County Attorney Choi. And just for the record, that was 300 million, I think it was tied to the tax bill for public safety aid for local communities to spend however they wanted it. So many of our departments got it and spent it in a variety of ways. So County Attorney Choi.
Right, Madam Chair and Representative Novotny, that is absolutely correct. It was a one-time appropriation. So Ramsey County in that formula, there was a formula for cities and counties. I think cities got 70% of the money, if I'm not mistaken, and counties got a lesser portion. So with our allocation, it was, I think Ramsey County got about $6 point some million. We used $1.7 million of that allocation for the Ramsey County non-fatal shooting fund. And so a big portion of that money, about 800,000 of the 1.7, was used for the Victim Witness Emergency Fund. And that has served thus far about 18 victims, and I think it's still early to tell whether or not that's making a difference, but we hope that it will. And then I think the remainder of the money, I don't know the allocations, but it was used for training, overtime for suburban agencies, and I think there's something else that I'm missing. And then St. Paul got 13 point some million dollars. And Chief Henry could speak to what portion of that was used for the non-fatal shooting fund. But I just want to also call out Chief Henry, because I think the hard part in all of this is the temptation would be to use this money for overtime and maybe supplement homicide investigators. And we were warned not to do that when we visited Denver. But it's really hard, I think, for a chief to figure out how to create a standalone unit. And with those resources, Chief Henry figured out a way to do that. And I think that's a big part of the difference here.
Chief Henry.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So yeah, the city of St. Paul got a much larger number. Approximately $3 million was allocated from the mayor to us for a 3-year process, so 24, 25, and 26. We are not overspending that money, so we've actually come in just slightly below that. We haven't had to find other sources, and as the county attorney said, we stood up a standalone unit, but we were able to do that because of the funding and be able to basically, the department didn't have extra bodies, we weren't allocated, our sworn staff wasn't increased, so what we did was we had to fill those pockets by taking individuals from different units to do this. But we found the most success in being able to do a stand-up unit, and the departments around the country that have come and talked to us have seen that, and they really do believe that that's probably the best approach if you can do it.
Chair Novotny.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, I'm not seeing any other questions. I'll let you close. Representative Frazier.
No, I think I'll end with what I stated in my opening, is that it's rare that we have a consensus on a solution to a problem, and this is that consensus that we have on a solution to a problem. And we can see right here at home that it's working really well. So looking forward to support on this.
Thank you, and thanks to the testifiers and, again, those who wrote letters in our packets.